my friend Ricky has bought his 2016 6 days round to do some work on it, and what we're going to be showing in the video is changing the rear shock Heim joint, which is the bearing just down there. To check whether your Heim joint needs replacing, the method is to put the bike on a stand and grab hold of the rear wheel and try moving it up and down slightly to see if there's any play in the bearing. If you feel any play, then the Heim joint needs replacing. The KTM Heim joint replacement kit comes with the Heim joint, which is in the middle, and then 2 dust seals and 2 bushes. The Heim joint has a Teflon coating inside, so you should make sure you don't get any grease on it. We're going to put the Heim joint into the freezer to make the external diameter a little smaller before we fit it in the swing arm. So the first step is to remove the rear shock. There's a lower bolt and top bolt. You need to take both of those out fully. Once you've removed both of the bolts, you can move the rear mud flap out the way and then pull the shock out. It's pretty easy. The next step is to remove the bushes. There's one on each side, so just pop them out with a screwdriver. And remove the dust seals as well. Should pop out with a screwdriver. Yep. And remove the bush from this side as well. And the dust seal. To remove and install the Heim joint bearings, I made this special tool. Right now it's set up for bearing removal. On the left side you can see a housing which the bearing is pushed into from the right side. Okay, so we're going to insert the removal tool, put it through from the opposite side. If you don't have a tool like this, you can use a socket and a hammer to drive the bearing out, but I preferred using a tool like this. I have a lathe, so I can easily make tools like this, or you can actually buy a tool similar to this online. And then once it's tight, it presses the bearing out into the opposite side. It's almost out now. Okay, it's just come out. And then you can remove the tool with the bearing. The old Heim joint bearing is pretty dirty, and when you move it around it feels kind of gritty. So it was about time for replacement. So next step, we're going to clean out the bearing surface and the swing arm. Make sure it's nice and clean. To install the bearing, this is the setup of the tool I made. You can see the only difference from the removal is this part has a collar on it, which goes up against the swing arm, and this distance here is machined so that the bearing sits right in the middle of the swing arm. So we just got the Heim joint bearing out of the freezer. The external diameter should be a little bit smaller than normal so it fits into the swing arm easily. We're going to put some grease on the outside of the bearing, being careful not to get it on the inside bearing surfaces. You don't need a lot of grease, but it'll just help it go in easier. Just smear it around and then install it using the tool into the swing arm. Just as in removal, if you don't have a tool like this, you can use a socket, right size, and drive it in with a hammer. It's just a little bit easier using a tool. Less chance of damaging something. And as I explained before, the tool has a stop on it, so it'll center the bearing precisely in the swing arm due to the dimension of the collar. Okay, it's almost in, just a couple more millimeters. Okay, and that's it fully seated now, so I can remove the tool. The next step is to install the dust seals. They actually come pre-greased inside. We're going to put a little bit of grease on the outside to make them install easier. You don't need a huge amount, just a little bit helps it go in easily. And we're going to use the same tool to drive the seals in. They go in very easily. You could easily use a socket and a hammer. But as I've got this tool, I just use it. Okay, sit seated, and then remove the tool and do the same on the other side, put the dust seal on the other side. The last step is to install the bushes. These just simply push in from either side. And that's it. Just need to reinstall the shock. When installing the rear shock bolts, it's a good idea to clean off the old thread lock before installing them, or you won't be able to torque them correctly. So I use a die. The correct size is M10 1.5mm pitch, and clean off the thread lock. When installing the shock bolts, you should use some Loctite, in this case Loctite 243. and then reinstall the rear shock. So the nice thing about the KTM PDS shocks, they're so easy to install and remove. You can do it in just a minute or two. And both the upper and lower shock bolts need to be torqued to 80 Newton meters. And that's it.